Hey everyone, and welcome to Brand and Business Remix, where we're going to solve real brand problems in real time. Yay. I'm Tara. I'm a brand strategist who spent the last 15 years helping corporations, healthcare orgs, nonprofits, startups tell the truth of who they are through branding. I started my career at Apple, and today I help people get to the root of their brand problem. Even figure out if it is a branding problem. And then we build a brand that feels like them and tells a story only they can tell. Joining me are my collaborators in the remix, Jesse, who brings AI integrations and systems perspective, and Amanda, who brings the ops brain, and she is today's hot seat guest.
I am the
Drum
brand
roll,
problem.
Yes. I will let them introduce themselves in a moment. This session is going to be a little bit different. Amanda, again from Vark Ops, is facing a common but tricky challenge. Her brand feels split. Like so many of us human beings, we all kind of have split personalities. We all have split personalities, right? No? Oh. Well, you know how we're walking contradictions sometimes. I think that describes a lot of us. One part of Amanda is elegant, grounded, and trustworthy. The other is a little bit bold, quirky, modern. Both are real, but when you try to mash them together, it can get a little muddy. One can detract from the other. So we're going to break this down live, and we did not plan this beforehand. This will be the first time Amanda sees the revised mood boards. And we'll be showing her initial reaction, and then we're going to talk through what comes up. And you're invited to help. So if you're watching, drop your thoughts in the chat. We want your feedback. We want you to join in on this and solve this problem with us. Amanda especially wants you to solve this problem with us. So, Jesse and Amanda, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Audio guy is muted again.
Hi, I'm Jesse. I run the production, so sometimes my brain's doing 50 things at once and I forget to unmute myself, or I'm unmuted and accidentally mute myself, which was the case this time. But I'm the audio engineer, the one who's always making the mistakes with the audio because I have such a complicated setup. The others have easy setups. But outside of that, I am the AI automations and implementation specialist here at Brand and Business Remix. I'm more of an observer for this episode, but I'll go ahead and turn things over to Amanda.
Like I said, I am the brand problem this week. I don't really think it's a problem, but what I've always dealt with is that I do a lot of different things, and trying to explain to somebody what you do when you do a lot of different things, especially if they're not necessarily the most common things, can be very confusing. Because I think if you're a photographer, you tell somebody you're a photographer, they know what you do. If you're an accountant, they know what you do. If you are a production manager for TV and film, they're like, okay, so you do something with TV. Nobody's ever figured it out. And then if you say, would you also help businesses run more efficiently? Okay, but what does that mean? Like you go and work for them? And it's a lot of that. And so I've always kind of had this branding challenge in how do you tell in a cohesive way all of the things that I do. And Tara and I went through this back in around 2020 when I was trying to figured that out. And I had at that time 3 solid legs of my business. There's the production side, there's the consulting side, and there's the fractional management side. How do you make those all work? And it got very confusing. I ended up getting rid of one, went in one direction, things were fine. Now I'm reassessing it again. And really kind of what pushed this in to some degree is that people that I've been doing this production work for forgot or didn't know that I do all of these other things. So our production world is very slow and a little bit weird right now. So my focus really has been on the business ops, consulting, helping, whatever you want to call it. And I'll talk to people like, oh, I didn't know you did that. And so now it's like, okay, so how do I figure out how to tell people what I do, make it clear? And the solution that we came up with was, let's just separate those two. So production will be still in Aardvark Girl. It will live in its own place, but we will start this second branch of the company called Vark Ops. And that's where I'll focus on everything that's related to helping businesses run more efficiently. That's what's going to tie into our brand and business remix, all of that. But even within this part of the company, there's a dichotomy that is me, where I'm always trying to find balance is very important to me. And this goes way back to aptitude tests in high school, and where it was determined that I'm not right-brained or left-brained, I'm right down the middle. And that explains pretty much everything. When I'm going through these really neat branding workshops that Tara offers, there's, a lot of things. Are you more this or this? And there's kind of that little slider scale. And I kept ending up right down the middle because I'm serious and I'm a little silly, and I'm calm but energetic, and I help. And I'm kind of like that duck where it's, there's calm above the surface, but underneath the wheels are just kind of spinning. Or I guess the duck doesn't have wheels, but the duck legs are just kind of spinning. So I'm just always trying to find that balance of how do I show that I'm two things without feeling disjointed. And for Tara, now I make my problem her problem.
I like that. And Amanda actually already got ahead of me. See, I was going to prompt her and ask her, hey, Can you tell us a little bit about your brand and who you are and what your conundrum is? And she gave a wonderful description. So I don't even have to do that part.
It's because I want help. I want to get right into it. People, help me figure this out.
Help.
I just kept thinking this morning, Jesse will get the reference, but movement in still life. Like, it just is kind of how I feel. Like, there's this, it's a stillness, but there's still movement behind it. And it's how how do I tell the story?
And that is my job, people. Helping her figure this part out, because it's something I hear a lot. In fact, I would say most clients, maybe 80 to 90%, come to me saying, I have a story, but I have no idea how to put it into words. I know what I do, but I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to share it in a way other people will understand. So I think this will really be helpful to anyone who finds themselves in that problem or in that conundrum, and any designer or brand designer that works with clients where they walk right down the middle, and they're chaotic but they're organized, or they're bold but they're subtle. Can you do like something boldly subtle for me? Could you make it pop but not too much? Like a little bit of pop, but don't make it like pink or anything.
I'm pretty sure that was one of my directives, was don't make anything pink. No,
that was not. Amanda is actually a very, very nice client to work with, because she's very articulate. She's good at describing what she wants, what her goals are. And she's just a genuinely pleasant person to deal with. I love working with Amanda.
I try. Thank you.
All right. So a little more backstory. Amanda is incredible at what she does. In fact, if you were to walk into Amanda's house, she'll tell you that she's not an artist. Yes, on that she's not a creative. She's into her spreadsheets and she's organized. But if you walk into Amanda's house, it looks like a model home, like on HGTV or something. She's really, I think she was an interior designer in another life. It's very polished, it's very professional, it's very elegant, it's very clean and very organized. But she has hand painted on her walls. She did like a mountainscape, and she did these like squiggly lines, like yellow and blue, on one of her walls, because she has that quirky side. She has that really creative side, and she likes to express herself on her walls and in that way. And what we're trying to do here is capture that in her, that artist, that creative, that free spirit that lives in that very articulate, polished, elegant Amanda that we all know and love. Because I like to say that the two mood boards I presented to her, one was what I feel like who she is externally, the Amanda that we see. And the other one is more internal, like what's going on internally, what's in her heart. So I think it'll be interesting to get everyone's reaction to both. But a little more backstory. Vark Ops. I can't talk. Vark Ops. Did you want to go with Vark
No,
Ops? I think.
I'll pass on that one. No.
No?
Vark Ops.
Vark Ops. Vark Ops is all about helping usually small business owners, often amazing, creative, passion-driven folks, get their operational ducks in a row. Think systems, processes, streamlining. Basically, she is the chaos tamer, as we like to call her. From, she what is it? That line, cut your teeth on? Basically, production sets and the chaos that goes with them. Why can't I think of the name? I'm sorry. My brain is like mashed potatoes today. So bear with me.
She cut her teeth on production.
Yes, she cut her teeth on production. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Jessie. So when we did her workshop, we explored everything from her childhood dreams. Newsflash, she wanted to be a teacher. Does that surprise anybody? She wanted to be a teacher when she grew up, which really honestly beautifully translates into her desire to mentor and empower business owners. Am I right that that's one of your biggest passions?
It is. I never really figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up because it's this weird thing because what I enjoyed, especially when I was younger, was all the creative stuff. I liked to play the guitar. I liked to paint. I liked to draw. I liked all of that stuff. But there was that part of me that said, you can't make a living doing this. Like, you need something more reliable. You need stability. So we kept that as kind of hobby land. And the focus was, it just turned into business when I got my first job when I was 16, and I just kind of took over and started figuring things out. And I had a really good first boss who let me do a lot of things and kind of led me along the way. And then that was the only good boss I ever had. And so I really, as I learned a lot by doing and figuring it out on my own, I really thought, wow, if I could help other people skip a lot of these steps that I went through, that would be really rewarding for me because I didn't really have that and I kind of always wanted that. So it became my mission to be that for other people. So I really enjoy teaching business-focused workshops and working with people one-on-one because I feel like that's where I'm best suited, is to use the knowledge that I've gained through actually doing a lot of different kinds of work, working with a lot of different people and helping people get there faster than I did.
And this is what I got to experience in the workshop. I mean, she describes what she does so well already. I don't know if she always realizes it, but you can hear how passionate she is. You can hear how much it means to her. And it's really just a matter of getting that across in her messaging and in her brand so people can see this Amanda, because Amanda is a very charming lady.
Well, thank you.
What really stood out to me is Amanda's genuine why. You know, she's been there, done that in the corporate world, and Vark Ops is born from her own journey, seeking autonomy and wanting to help others achieve that same freedom that she enjoys now. And she has a whole story to go along with it that you'll have to hear sometime about the day she was fired. It's a really cool story. But without operational headaches, that she's a genius at solving. So being able to enjoy that freedom, but not worrying about your ops, not sticking your head in spreadsheets, which as a creative, I love the sound of that. Like, I would love if somebody told me, you don't have to do any admin. It's all going to be automated and done for you, or it's at least going to be all in one place so you know where to look, and it's going to be organized for you, and you'll actually be able to find your files instead of like version 1, version 2, version 3, version 3000, revised version 1 all over like my desktop.
Version 1, final revised 2.
Yes, that's exactly. You know my file names. How did you know that?
Because you're creative. I know creatives. I've seen many of those files.
Yes, she very much does. You know, it's not about efficiency for efficiency's sake. It's about giving people back their time and their passion. And especially for us creatives, that passion is so important to us. A key quote that really resonated with me was she said, "My clients aren't just paychecks to me." And that really sums up her approach. What did you mean by that when you said that?
I feel like a lot of people do work just to get paid for it. And I mean, obviously, we all need to make an income. That goes without saying, and that's important to me too. I don't work for free, with some exceptions. Sometimes I just want to help somebody, and it doesn't matter. But really, what I meant is when I start working with a new client, I treat their business as if it's my own, with the same level of care. So it's not like, okay, well, you're going to get this version of me. Like, you get the same version of me that I do, if that makes any sense. I use bookkeeping a lot for simple examples. It's a very small part of what I do, but it's something that every business needs, so they're familiar with it. If you hire me to do your books, I don't just look at numbers and enter things in. Like, I will, if something stands out at me, like, hey, this seems out of the ordinary. Is that normal? If not, let's talk about it, and I'll catch things. And if I see it just gives, I jump into things thinking, what would I do if this was my business, instead of just, oh, it's whatever you want, because I feel like I'm more of a partner, not on paper. Obviously, I don't sign partnership agreements with everybody it's not like, oh, I'm going to help you with your business and then I own half of it. That could be okay, but that's just not where I'm at with things. But I really want to look at it as a partnership, not just, oh, well, you pay me and this is what I do. It's more like, I care about you as a person. I care about how your business is doing. I care about your mental state while you're running the business. And one of the things that I feel backs this up is that I don't work with people that I don't want to work with. It's one of many reasons why I love working for myself, is I don't have to work with everyone. Sometimes people just aren't the right fit, and that's okay. I don't mean that as a place of judgment of, oh, well, you're just not my kind of people. But sometimes that's how it is. People have different working styles, and I only work with people who I feel that I can genuinely help. It's not just, oh, well, you're a mess, I don't like you, I'm going to take your money. It's more, no, if I'm going to take your money, it's because I believe that I can help you and I want to work with you. Because I think that a big part of that whole work-life balance that everyone is trying to find is working with people that we enjoy working with, that make us feel better and don't become the drain. Because I think we've all had bosses or clients or other types of people where you just feel the weight of their presence, and not in a good way. So I do my best to avoid that and never be that.
Yeah, I think what you just said there again just makes me think about your messaging and how we can get that across. And because when you're talking, you can hear that passion and it comes across as so authentic. You mean what you say. And Jesse, can I request you put us all three back on the screen so I can see everybody? Thank you. I feel like I'm talking to myself, and it's
Sorry.
no problem.
Well, it's always that is the challenge. It's kind of like with a resume. I can't possibly tell you what I do on a piece of paper. It's a list of qualifications, and that's been the struggle with a website, with things like that, is how do I get this across in words? Because I think if I have a one-on-one with somebody, I think that they get to know who I am pretty quickly, and that is always good. But you have to get to the point where you can get the one-on-one with somebody, and that starts with, what is that messaging? How do you very succinctly say what you do and get that across from somebody reading? And that's what you're for. You do that so I don't have to.
Uh-huh. Huh. So, to anyone watching, what did you think? What do you think so far? Would you hire Amanda? Anyone? We'll see if anyone comments on that.
Thank you.
Why would you hire Amanda, Jesse?
Because those are the types of services that I don't enjoy doing. That's the type of work that other people enjoy, and I'd rather them take that off my plate than for me to dread going in and doing it all myself. If it can free me up to do other things where I'm actually getting paid more money for than I would be paying her, then it works out. And we do have another comment.
Oh, we do. Neat.
My brothers would hire me, so at least I've got that going for me.
Well, that's a good thing, because not everybody wants to hire family, let me tell you. Like, sometimes family's the last person they'd want to hire.
This is true.
So through the workshop we did together, a clear picture started to emerge of who Vark Ops is as a brand human. Spoiler alert, it's a lot of Amanda.
I am a brand human.
And we're talking about a brand that I would describe as competent and trustworthy. Absolutely essential, especially when you are handling the backbone of someone's business. Amanda's clients trust her implicitly because they're handing things over that you don't want to just hand over to just anybody. What are some of the things that the clients trust you with, Amanda?
Oh, for a lot of them, I have master admin access to their bank accounts, their bookkeeping stuff in general. It's all the financial stuff. And I urge people, I said, you don't have to give me you can set me up as a user. That way you can control it. And a lot of times people are like, I trust you. It's fine. And I appreciate that because I know that I can take that information. I'm not going to do anything with it. It's not... It just wouldn't even cross my mind to mess with somebody in that way. So it feels good that I get trusted with that kind of information, but also the inner workings of how their business is. Most of the time, I'm not working with people who are in my same field. I do work with a lot of people who have some experience in production, but they don't necessarily do the exact same things. But I get to know how people make their money and what's special about them versus sometimes I might work with two different companies that do the same thing who are competitors, and they know that I'm not going to go to one and tell them how the other person is doing things. That's, when you get me, I'm the vault. So your information lives with me and lives with me only.
Yeah.
And I do want to interject real quick. For anybody who is sharing passwords with people, please, please, please use a password manager. Do not just send over your credentials to people. Use a password manager.
Yeah. I try to tell people, and then the full information shows up in my email or a text message, and I'm like, no. But some people are just more trusting.
I'm always amazed what people will send via email, even working in branding and marketing, like passwords, here's the login to this account. And I always tell them, do you have a password manager? Don't use email to send that. And in fact, once I get this, change your password. Once I'm done doing whatever it is I'm doing. We have another comment here. Let's see.
The younger McEwan skills are so different than the elder McEwan. With my business degrees, I learned I am not suited to earn accountant or marketer.
I think that's to be an accountant or marketer. Well, I guess you could earn an accountant or a marketer.
Yes, to be an accountant or marketer would make more sense.
Yeah, but that makes you a good leader because you know what your strengths are.
And if it makes you feel any better, this is part of that dichotomy is I could never be an accountant either. People are all the time like, oh, why don't you become a CPA and you could do this? I don't want to do that all the time. And but I also couldn't be like a full creative all the time either. It comes back to that balance. It's why production worked out really well for me because I did a more logic organizational role in a creative industry, and that kind of fed both sides of my brain. That's what I always look for is how can I keep both sides of that brain happy? Because I use my creativity a lot in problem solving. I always say one of my superpowers is creative problem solving. It's being able to look at a situation and figure out a different way to fix it than what most people might do. But yeah, to be all, if I was, as much as I love the color coded spreadsheet, if I was in one all day, every day, I would be yearning for that creative something to help balance. It always comes back to balance. But I think I am a pretty good speller, so I do have maybe that on
Wordle.
the Elder McEwan. yeah. Tara calls me
she beats
Wordle.
us all. I call her Wordle. She beats us all at Scrabble. Let me tell you, there's no beating this woman at Scrabble. It doesn't happen. And as a writer, I'm surprisingly bad at Scrabble. I don't know what it is. It's I can write for days, but you put me in front of a Scrabble game and give me a jumble of letters, and my mind goes blank suddenly. Suddenly, I don't have a vocabulary. It's interesting. But that's brand challenge number 1 is it can be difficult to communicate something like competence or trustworthiness, especially when you are trusting this person with your bank account information. You have to come across as credible. They're definitely going to want references, which Amanda has plenty of. The other thing that came up was she has very modern aesthetics. She's very approachable. She wants to move away from that stuffy old school consultant vibe. In fact, she doesn't even like the word consultant. She cringes a little bit when we say consultant. Mm. She's insightful. She's a really good listener. She really understands a client's unique needs. She asks questions. She is very dependable, probably one of the most dependable, reliable people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. And she is a problem solver. She will figure it out. That's what she prides herself on. Like, she's persistent. If you give her a problem and you need it solved, she will keep working at it until she figures it out. And importantly, a little bit quirky, I would say rebellious in a subtle way. She's not about cookie cutter solutions or corporate BS. She wants to help businesses do things their way, but better. Streamlined. One of the lines that came out of our workshop was, you didn't start a business to do what everyone else has done. That's who Vark Ops is. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, yeah, it comes back to, what do I call myself with what I do? And the most understandable word is consultant, because that's what I do. I consult. I go in and I meet with these business owners and I see how the things are running. I listen to what's not working well and I figure out how to fix it. That was one of my other superpowers, is I will figure it out, whatever it is. I do. It's like, I love the detective work that goes into solving a problem of some sort. And I get a lot of joy in that. But I've had very negative experiences with consultants, not any that I've hired myself, but when I was in the corporate world, when they bring somebody in, we brought in this consultant and they're going to help make everything better. And that's not what happened. And so that was kind of why I don't want to be called that, because it was always some guy in his business suit with a gruff voice that came in, and we talked about this, I think, last week. It's, they started barking orders and saying, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this, and not listening to anybody. It was just all, you will do things my way or it won't work. And I'm smart enough to know that that's not the case. My way works for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I mean, Tara, if I gave you one of my spreadsheets and said, hey, you're going to use this every day now, you would probably go, no, keep it away from me. Take that thing, get it away. No spreadsheet, bad. And then you'd say no cookie. So I don't force.
I would say, Amanda, no cookie. I would say that. It's true.
So I don't force my way on anybody, because if somebody tries to tell me their way of doing something, it's not always going to work. I like to be open-minded, and in the process, I get to learn new things too, which I think is way more fun than just doing the same thing all the time. So I don't want to be a traditional consultant. That's why I don't like that word. I want to make it very clear that we are partnering, whether it's for 2 weeks or 6 months or a year. However, like, you're not committed. You're not beholden to me. I will never go in and say, like, now some people, I feel like, they will put their clients in a place to where now they always need them. And that makes sense. People want some job security, right? I'm going to make it so that you need me. I want people to need me because they want to. I don't ever hold their businesses hostage. And what I always say is, look, if I get you to a place and we fix everything and it's running smoothly and you want to hire a full-time person that's going to sit in your office and you can pay them a fraction of the amount, you absolutely should do that. And I'm going to help you teach them how to do that. That's great. Then we're done in that capacity. What do I want from you in that case? Refer me to somebody else who can use my services. 100% of my business has been referral based because of my reputation. It's always somebody who knows me or knows somebody who knows me. That's how I get the business that I do. I want that to continue. And I want to be top of mind if something else comes up. But it's all that nobody's ever hostage. It's not I'm going to fix everything and make sure that I'm the only one that knows how it works, because that doesn't make any sense. When I worked at the last job that I worked at, how this all started was when I got there, it was chaos and I tamed the chaos, and that part was a lot of fun. But once I got all the systems in place and everything was running smoothly, I was bored. And it got to a point where I realized they don't need to be paying me full time at my salary to do this. They could easily bring somebody in at a fraction of that pay who could do, because all they need to do at this point is maintain things. It's already set up. It basically runs itself. And that I don't like to be bored. So that's when I started figuring out I need to get out of this world. I either need to find another messy business that I can fix or something needs to change. And that is how all this started was, okay, so not everybody needs a full-time director of operations. And what makes me laugh about this is at the time when I would talk about this idea of, like, there was one woman, she was trying to get my marketing business. She's like, well, we'll market you as the part-time CEO. And, nobody's ever heard of that. And it's clever. And I liked the idea. I just didn't like the approach. And now, fast forward 10 years, fractional operations managers, fractional chief financial officers. I couldn't see them. Mashed potatoes too. But there is a whole thing. A lot of people look for this fractional help because they don't need a full-time person. They just need some extra help. But the strategic help, that C-level, like the corporate level, the executive level, somebody who can see the bigger picture, but without having to then have that giant corporate salary and all the benefits and all of that. So that's what I'd like to do is, And I don't want to be in the corporate world. I'd like to help these smaller businesses, especially because when you're a smaller business and you're not part of the big corporations have too much red tape, and it makes it really impossible to get a lot of things done. You're always waiting for approval upon approval, and then, no, we can't do that, or it's too much. But a small business owner has that flexibility to be really creative with the solutions, and that's really what I get into because, again, I don't want to do it like everybody else. Everybody else is doing it like everybody else. We want to do something different. That's a very long answer to a very simple question.
I like your long answers. They're always smart and well thought out and very articulate. And you know what I notice about you? You don't say a lot. You don't have a lot of crutch words. Yeah.
And you know why that is because I did a podcast for a little while. And the first time I heard that podcast and I realized how many filler words I used, I asked my lovely brother Jesse, who does a lot of work with podcasters, what I could do to fix that. And I think the answer was to slow down a little bit. You don't have to fill every second with a word, which I think is what people do. It's, okay, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. There shouldn't be any silence, so I'll just throw this sound in there. And I'm not perfect at it, but I feel like I somehow have been able to get some of that out of the way. It's also easy when you feel really strongly about what you're talking about, which is why my answers get long, because I could talk about this stuff forever.
Oh, I agree. I could sit here and talk about branding and your brand forever.
Tara's head is floating
all night. We're floating around.
Because I was notified captions are flying over her head, so we don't want that. So we're editing on the fly.
I'm covered by captions.
Here, we'll just put you all up here.
All right.
And we'll move everybody around.
I could watch this for a while. It's like
It's
the DVD screensaver back in the day where it would just bounce and hit the side.
Hopefully nobody gets motion sickness. I don't want to be causing anything like that to anybody watching. We did this layout on the fly right before we went live, so we're kind of adjusting as we go.
We did, just like we planned to do this last minute because we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we just did this live and solved this problem live as we're working through Amanda's brand? It's how my brain works. I'm very spontaneous like that. So naturally, like, some contradictions came up when we were talking about who you are and your brand and your goals and where you're going and what you really want. And that's what makes branding so fascinating and challenging, is that we humans are full of wonderful contradictions. I don't think I've ever worked with anybody who didn't have some contradictions going on that made developing their brand and telling their story a little bit more challenging, because, and sometimes it's because they wanted to work with completely opposite types of people, or internally they felt like they were both, for example, bold and quiet. Depending on, sometimes they're bold in ways that aren't necessarily they wear flashy colors or they talk really loudly. Sometimes it's in their decision making. They make bold decisions, but if, you meet them and they're quiet and they're soft spoken. And so part of our job as people, brand strategists, is to make all of that come alive and be able to communicate it in a way that people understand it and accept it and go, yeah, that is uniquely this person or this company. So here's what came up with Amanda. Visibility versus privacy. So Amanda knows that Vark Ops, she needs to get Vark Ops out there to be seen. That's part of marketing and growing that brand awareness. But personally, she's more introverted and values her privacy. So how do we create a brand she feels comfortable championing? How do we create a brand and a marketing plan that fits with her and her needs, that feels sustainable to her? Because she tried making content and videos and it was a lot of work and it was stressful for her, and just sitting there and talking to a camera by yourself, honestly, it's not fun for anybody. It's why we decided to do this live stream every week in this format, because the three of us, none of us like talking to a camera in a room. Like, we like talking to other people. We like talking to each other. So for us, this works really well. So a format like this, where we can just talk every week, is helpful to Amanda. It's she can take it and then she can take clips where she's being her articulate self and put them out there and show people what she's about. The other contradiction that came up is being risk averse, but then also wanting to grow and scale, especially financially. So she has big goals for Vark Ops, like many small business owners do, but she's rightfully cautious about investing, any kind of financial investments, like especially areas like marketing, where ROI, as we all know, isn't guaranteed. If anybody tries to guarantee you so many sales with marketing, I would be a little bit wary of that. Not just a little bit, I would say a lot. I personally don't make guarantees in marketing because I know that things change. I know that the market is, especially right now, always shifting and we have to adapt. And ultimately, growing your brand and growing that brand awareness is the long game. It really is. And for most people, they don't go viral overnight. I know I've heard those stories where like a singer posted them doing a cover song on YouTube and then they woke up the next day and it went viral or something. That doesn't happen to, I would say, 99.9% of people. For us, it's a lot of grit and hard work and just being persistent and putting yourself out there and constantly testing and iterating and figuring out what works and what doesn't. The other thing that came up was structure versus customizing. She definitely sees the value in packages. It's efficient. Amanda likes efficiency. But the real magic in her work is really customized. She tailors all of her solutions to each client that she works with. And so part of that challenge is thinking of, well, how do I construct packages when every situation I deal with is different? And I can relate. It's the same way with my brand packages. I love to start with a roadmap like we did with Amanda because it helps me really understand the person, the humans I'm working with, and what they want and how they tick and what's going to be best for them and how we should go about this. But from there, their needs are going to be different. Every client I work with has different branding needs. Yes, they might need a logo or a website or messaging, but not always, because sometimes they have a really killer website, but maybe their logo needs to be updated. The problem isn't always clear, and that's why having these conversations is so important, because we get to the actual root of the problem versus just trying to say, like, if a business comes to you and they say, okay, I'm losing time in the day with all this admin stuff. I feel disorganized. I'm running from one thing to the next, and I don't ever have what I need, and I'm going into prospect meetings and I don't feel prepared. Amanda, what do I do? Flames coming out of head. Are you going to go in there and instantly go, okay, well, here's my package. I'm just going to apply this giant Band-Aid on the problem because this worked for other clients. So here's what I can do for you. Do you think that would work well?
No, we talked about why I've never been comfortable with the word consulting, and you're explaining why I'm not comfortable with the word coaching either. Because, and again, there are exceptions to everything. So this is not saying that all coaches or all consultants are like this, but my experience with coaches in general is that everything is very much a template, and they stick everybody into the same exact process, and you're going to develop this email sequence, and if they use the words, you're going to nurture your clients or potential clients and your warm leads. And I get that these words are there. There's certain things just don't resonate with me. And I've worked with people who really want to put me in that box, and I don't fit in that box. You can tell me that the best way to get visible is to post on social media every single day. I'm not going to do it. It doesn't feel true to who I am. And I need to connect with the people who like me for me and not for some phony image that's out there. I'm not a social media person. I've made attempts. It's not fun for me. It's not enjoyable. So most of my Instagram is mostly trees and cats, and that pretty much sums up what you get with me. So telling me that, and I can say, okay, well, you need to get better at this, or you need to be more active. I can understand that, but people would try to put me in their little thing, and you're going to set these email sequences where you're sending emails to somebody every single day of the week, and you're doing this and that. And if I'm receiving an email from a company every single day, I'm unsubscribing because it's too much. So I can't use techniques to get business that completely repulse me from other businesses. And I think that's always been the thing, is I like who I am. I just need to find a way that works, that lets me be true to that, instead of doing all the social media stuff. It was just a drain, and it became a chore. And I don't think running your business should be a chore. I think it should be fun.
Well, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Running your own business should be fun.
One of the things that I don't think any of us do is the paint by numbers approach to helping businesses, because every business has its own unique needs.
Yeah, we all feel the same way about that. And in fact, I would say many of, whether it's a client or prospects I've talked to, they come in feeling a little bit skeptical, or sometimes a lot skeptical of marketing or marketers, because they felt pushed into packages or certain trends in the past, and they weren't comfortable with it. It didn't work well for them. And they felt like they were basically just handed like a prescription they give everybody else and say, well, here's the email sequences to set up, and here's what you need to do 3 times a week. And you need to post on social media, do this type of post, this type of post, and this type of post. And it didn't really feel like it applied specifically to them. It was more like, well, here's what we think is working in marketing, or here's what everybody's saying is working right now. So let's just have everybody do that. Well, you don't really stand out if you're doing what everybody else is doing. You don't, it's pretty much like you get lost in the crowd and people just keep scrolling. It's because they roll their eyes and they go, oh, here's another post on that. Like lately for me, what I've been seeing on LinkedIn is many posts about AI and writing and how people are tired of seeing posts written by AI. And I get it. There's a lot of really generic posts out there, but now the posts complaining about the generic posts have overtaken my feed to the point where every time I see it, I just keep scrolling because it's like, not again, like give me some thought leadership. And finally, someone broke out and said, look, I know there's a lot of bad posts out there, but you can still be a good writer and utilize AI because you're in control of it. You're the one, if you're giving it garbage as an input, you're going to get garbage out. Here's how to do it. And it stood out to me because I was like, yes, finally, some thought leadership on the matter, breaking away from the pack, so to speak. And I'm sorry, that was a long tirade, but yes, we're all on the same page when it comes to that. So the other,
just real quick, because you mentioned that my rebellion, and that's where my rebellion comes in. I'm not a rebel in the sense of I'm going to break the law and break all the rules and see what I can get away with. I think anybody who knows me knows that I'm really boring and not that way. But where my rebellion comes in is you can't tell me how to do something, or I mean, if you tell me I can't do something, that's really going to motivate me to show you that I can. They've been that way my entire life. It's just finding those different out of the norm ways. And if you're going to tell me I can't do something, I need you to give me a logical reason why. And that, that's been in play for many years of my life. But it's a different type of rebellion, but I think that good business owners have a little bit of that in them, because to grow a business, you have to be able to try things a different way. And you can read all of it. Here, perfect small example, but you can read all of the things online about, this expert says, if you do these things, this is how you can become a millionaire. And on that list is, one of the things that all millionaires do is they wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, Tara, are you going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning? And if you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, are you going to be any sense of productive for the first 3 or 4 hours of your day? Not everybody can be a 5 o'clock in the morning person. That doesn't mean that you can't be successful, because that's what the gurus told you have to do. It's no, you have to be able to look in different ways. You need to be able to figure out your own way. That's the kind of rebel that I am. It's not a breaking the rules. It's just breaking the norms.
And that right there is really important, because when you look at Amanda on paper, for example, if you were to just see the descriptions, like she's very accurate, she's very dependable, she's very credible, she's articulate, she's professional, she's well organized, and then you see rebellious on there, it makes you pause and you go, well, that's interesting. But when you start talking to her and you realize the way she's being rebellious, just like somebody, that decision maker who makes bold decisions, but they might be a really quiet, soft-spoken person, that's just who we are as people. And so when I'm creating or developing a brand, it's really important for me to understand those distinctions. What does rebellious mean to that person? Because it means something different to everybody.
I will also, hop on a plane and fly one way to Canada just to get an interview with somebody because somebody else said, "Oh, you can't do that."
Yeah. She will. and or hop on a plane to meet certain band members that
Well, the very
last minute
short
notice.
version of this story was I needed to get an interview with Bono for a documentary we're making about U2. The management team was not being as helpful as I wanted them to be, so I got on a plane, flew one way to Canada, found Bono himself and asked him what we could do, and then we got the interview. So yeah, that's not the solution for everybody to just hop on a plane and go hunt somebody down, but again, if somebody had told me no with the right reason, I would have left it alone, but I didn't get the right reason, so I figured it out. That's what we do sometimes.
I think that sounds very reasonable.
We do have a quick question, which is a much more in-depth question, but we can answer it in kind of at a high level. And it's, I see a lot of people who make metal artwork like I do with ads on Facebook. Are social media sites becoming more popular than traditional web pages?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say no. They work together. So essentially, social media is your way to grow brand awareness. That's where your people are. Those are where the people who follow you are, who will see the things you post throughout the day or throughout the month, depending on how frequently you post. So when you post something, and let's say somebody's intrigued by it, you post a piece of your work, and people go, that's really good. I want to find out more about this person. They might go to your profile. They might, depending on what platform it's on, you'll hopefully have a link to your website somewhere on there, and they'll click on it and they'll go to your website and they'll see more of your work and more of your personality and more about who you are and what you do. And in theory, if they're your people, if they are somebody who really wants to buy from you, they'll be intrigued by that, and they'll fill out your form and say, hey, Mike, I really want to buy that piece. I'm really impressed. Like, how do I buy it? So I think it's really, the marketing approach is going to be different for every individual depending on what their needs are and depending on their time and their resources. So like take Amanda here. She's a busy woman. And she's not somebody who wants to be on every single platform. In fact, I worry when people are told they need to be on every single platform, because you need to be on the platforms where your audience is, not just every platform just to maybe grow awareness. You're just going to stretch yourself too thin. So you pick those places where your target audience hangs out. And that means you have to really understand who your target audience is and know everything about them, like how they spend their entire day. And then that will help you come up with an efficient, effective marketing plan where you're not spreading yourself thin or tiring yourself out or burning yourself out, because marketing's hard enough and time consuming enough. You don't need to be on platforms or posting places that you're really not going to get any interaction.
And I know when I see an ad on social media, I'll look at it, and if it's intriguing, first thing I do is I go to the website. So it's I think the two kind of work in tandem. It doesn't have to be a detailed website, but enough that I can get a sense of what this company is or this product is, and usually that's where my interest ends. As I go on the website, I'm like, I don't want this.
You're like, gotcha. The importance of a good website, people. Again, that brand that gets people to stop and stay. And one thing you touched on a while back, Amanda, but I think is really important, is she was talking about how most of her business has been through referrals, and how her clients love her so much. They're singing her praises to other people. And I think people underestimate in general how important retention is. Hi, Collins. For a brand and for your marketing, you really want to focus on your current customers too, and make sure they still love you and keep loving you. And again, a big part of that is having a strong brand. And that I'm not just talking about colors and a nice looking website. I'm also just talking about how you talk to people. Are you the kind of place that are like, you know what, come down and see me in person? That's who you are. Or are you like, we do everything through forms online. Fill out the form, send us an email. We will respond in 24 hours. kind of brand. Hey, that works for some people. It really does. Some people just want to communicate online. They don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to do everything via forms. So there's people for everybody. There's people for every type of brand. Okay. So I know we got to get to the fun part, which is getting into the actual stylescape. So I'll give a little bit of background, and then we'll start showing these mood boards of Amanda's here. So my challenge was to take all of the rich information that Amanda gave me, and she gave me a lot of wonderful information that I wrote down, lots of golden nuggets, and develop a couple of initial visual directions to try and capture the different facets of Vark Ops that we just talked about. So now you know all about the challenge. You know what we know going into this. And I really wanted to capture who she is externally, how people see her, and what that looks like. And then that part of her, what she said, is a little bit rebellious, playful, quirky. That part of her house when I go in and you see this beautiful HGTV house, and then you see her hand-painted art on the walls. Which one is the real Amanda? They're both the real Amanda. But when you're talking about a brand like Vark Ops, that message needs to be crystal clear, leaning into who Vark Ops is. And I'm so glad that Collins has joined us and is giving his feedback. If you see Big Shadow hovering, going back and forth, that is Amanda's cat.
He has a very big tail, and that apparently needs to be in the camera right now.
So one direction was we went with, much like it looked like, in fact, I asked Amanda, can I, get a picture of your house in your living room so I could just start capturing those colors because they're her favorite colors. They feel like her. They feel like her brand. And this first direction leans very sophisticated experience. It really highlights that trustworthiness, the fixer, the chaos tamer. And then the other direction is showing that internal Amanda a little more. It's modern, approachable, energetic. It's a little quirky. And so you'll see the difference when we pull both mood boards up. And Amanda's seen both of these mood boards. So let's go ahead and dive into today's challenge by pulling up that first mood board.
Before Tara got teeny tiny.
Oh, wow. I disappeared.
Beetlejuice got to you.
That's what I was just said. I feel like I got on Beetlejuice. That's okay. I can be tiny.
I'll fix you. Give me a second.
So before I go in depth of, what this is, Amanda, tell me when you first saw this, what was your reaction to it initially?
My initial reaction was that this feels true to me. We all know that I kind of live in this teal blue kind of world. I mean, look, you can see the couch in the background, my shades, pretty much everything fits into that. That's my primary color. I only recently started adopting yellow because when I got here to the Pacific Northwest, my walls were gray, my decorations were all blue. It started to feel a little too much. I needed something to break it up. And I do like a kind of an unexpected, oh no, now Jesse's duplicated. The two of you have always said you shared a brain. Now you've officially morphed into each other. But I like an unexpected bit of color that maybe... It's that unexpected. I think when I look at this, I see kind of the simplistic, and I mean simplistic in the best way because that's really what I go for. It's clean, it's streamlined, it feels a lot like me. The picture of the house there, just for reference, is not my house, but I really would like to have that space in my world. But everything about this kind of screams me. It's that calm tone. It feels true to me. And what I'm always is trying to convey, that little bit of Because if you were to ask me of the two sides, and you kind of alluded to this, the primary thing that people get from me is this side. And that I'm fine with that. It's because the lighter side, the sillier side, the quirky, which is a word that we've used not to be confused with eccentric. You and I talked about, I'm not Elsbeth, clearly, not eccentric, but just quirky and a little bit off what you would expect for.
A little bit offbeat.
Yes, and I like that. That's a part that not everyone gets to know. It kind of makes me sad that not everybody knows my sillier side, but usually when I'm working with them, I'm dealing with the business side, and that's I mean, and even that's the primary part of me is what's represented here. And so everything, it just kind of felt like, okay, yeah, this is me represented in a board. It makes sense. Those my colors, even, I've the font, everything to me in this, it works together. So I like it.
So this first direction, again, it represents elegance, established, clean. It reflects the side of Amanda that's calm, collected, and clear. Because that's the Amanda I know. That's Amanda I'm sure everybody knows, is that calm, collected, clear. I've rarely seen her worked up about anything. And as she said, it's the one she naturally gravitates to because it feels safe. It's polished. It's maybe what people expect from a trusted ops partner. Because again, if you're going to hand over your bank account information to somebody, you want them to seem credible and trustworthy and make you feel at ease. So I'm curious, to the audience, what is your reaction to this mood board? And if you're not watching this live, you please do leave a comment either on YouTube or LinkedIn, because we want to hear your thoughts. We're trying to get this brand problem solved.
What I see is it's just very, very professional. The colors are kind of calming, reassuring. And I know I'm biased because I know the name, or the name you called this, but it is very elegant. It's very, very polished and very professional.
What I tried to do here is, an interesting thing is Amanda is, much like me in the past, has always gravitated towards sans serif fonts. So clean and open. And I've been a lover of those, of sans serif for a really long time, just my personal taste. But I started to open my mind as I was developing brands over the years to other, because when you first start out, it's hard to break out of that style you have, that perspective. But I started to really appreciate the magic of serif fonts and what they could communicate. And so for this one, I took a risk because I wasn't sure how Amanda would feel about serif font. And I used that for the headings. And I used that for the body copy. And I don't know if you can zoom in at all, Jesse. It's okay if you can't.
One silly thing that when I was younger, I used to always kind of do that with the T, to make the kind of curved T's. I don't know why, but I saw this font. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that speaks to me in that way too, because it still has a little, it still feels like me, even though it's not what I probably would have thought of on my own. And that's a big part of this too. I don't want it just to be what I think of on my own, because that doesn't serve me any kind of a beneficial purpose.
And that's what I love about her. She is so open-minded. Like she's willing to take these risks. She's willing to look at different perspectives. And the reason I went with the serif font specifically, because it screams a little bit like bookworm, editorial, polished, traditional, but it really fit this particular direction and what she was going for. And I went through like every sans serif pairing I could think of, and it just wasn't quite right. And finally I just settled. I don't usually even do 3 fonts, but this just really worked. It was a little bit different. And the other thing I wanted to do was I didn't want it to be too stuffy and corporate, because remember that Amanda is not a consultant. She's not stuffy She works with a lot of creatives, and she does have that wonderfully quirky, offbeat side to her that people love. That's why they love hanging out with and working with Amanda, because of who she is. And so I wanted to make sure that was part of this as well. It wasn't just going to be super corporate. So how I did that was taking little bits of art, like abstract art, and then taking that abstract aardvark, because we all know that aardvarks are a big part of Amanda's life and have been her identity, part of her identity since high school, when they nicknamed her Aardvark Girl. Or
it started as Aardvark Girl, and then I still have people call me Vark to this day, so it makes sense that my company is Aardvark Girl, and this sub company is Vark Ops, so it all ties together. But
yeah, Jesse, if you can scroll it over toward the end, yeah, there you go. So I wanted to throw in a little sketched aardvark that I made for her too, that I feel fits her and fits this direction really well. And you both did a good job, like, describing what this brand communicates to you, or what it looks like. But Jesse, when you're looking at this, does this communicate trustworthiness to you? Is this someone you could trust working with if you saw this on a website?
Yeah, it doesn't look cheap. It doesn't look scammy. It looks reassuring. It checks all of the boxes for a professional that I can trust.
And when you look at it, how does it make you feel in general? Is it calming? Do you feel like a sense of calm? Do you feel excited? Like, ooh, do you feel kind of like frustrated? Like, get this out of my face.
I think I said that earlier when I was first talking about it. There's something about the colors. Everything is just really calming to me.
What about you, Amanda? What was your first thing you felt looking at it, or seeing it again? What is the overwhelming feeling?
You can't ask the McEwans how we feel about something. It's such a hard question to answer. It's like, I don't know. The font doesn't make me feel anything. But
not the font, just it as a whole.
I know. But it does. It has that sense of calm. It has. If I'm trying to look at this objectively and it's not my own, if I look at it, I think it's. You've used the word polished, and that's that is what's coming to mind. It's put together. It makes sense. This is a professional person that I want to work with. Hopefully, I would work with me.
And if this was, the building blocks of your website, would you feel proud? Would you feel like I could embrace this?
I would, because again, it's, everything still feels very true to me. I like that there's a sketched aardvark, and the part of it is my business has nothing to do with aardvarks, obviously, but it's a conversation starter. And so if, I want people to say, what is aardvark? Like, why? It's one of the most fun things. I like to make people say aardvark because it's just a fun word, which is how it started in the first place. But when I worked at a presidential debate in 2016, and on the day of the debate, Secret Service had stopped me. At the time, I had a personalized license plate. It said Vark Girl, because that was all that would fit on it. But they were just they had been trying to figure it out for the whole week. And, what is this? So they finally stopped and said, and then we had to have a good conversation about it. It's, as somebody who is an introvert and doesn't always have I don't like small talk a lot, but if you start a question about an aardvark, it's just more fun, a fun way to start a conversation. So, I like that it's on there without it really an explanation, but if you want to know, then you can ask me about it.
Jesse, can you scroll back toward where the logo is? Because I forgot one of the important piece to mention here. So we also have two different logos presented on here. I went through different concepts, and this particular logo actually was the birth child of Amanda herself. she came up with this wonderful concept because we were both thinking through what would represent Amanda that's not an aardvark, because she's always been with an aardvark of some form throughout her career. Like, what could still represent it, but in a more abstract way, to sound a little bit pithy, a more grown-up way. And she actually started playing with some concepts, and she came up with this idea of like a check mark with almost like a aardvark snout together. And what I really liked about it was it's so dynamic and it has so much movement. And when you look at it, it's really elegant. And so I took her concept and I, did my designer refining thing and tried different backgrounds and different styles with it and settled on this because I think it really speaks to her again, that clean, crisp part of her, but it also is a little unexpected. It's quirky. It has that like I said, it just feels like it's moving. And I think that's really cool. And I built this around that concept, something that would really fit well and embrace the concept that came out of her brain. That I think, again, was more Amanda than even anything I could come up with, as much as I got,
Well, and the thing is, I'm not a logo designer, but the way that I work, I'm trying to figure out how do I tell Tara what I have in my head, because I knew that I didn't want it to be an aardvark. I already have an aardvark logo. I didn't want it to be, again, traditional consultant where it's just my initials or something like that. But I knew kind of abstract, but it still made sense why the company is called Vark Ops. Like, it needs to make some kind of sense. When you see Vark Ops, what does that mean? It has to have a meaning. The only way for me to get it out of my head was to start playing around and trying to do my own thing. And that's kind of where this came from. It's, it's V for Vark. And then if you want to say that circle is O for Ops. So it symbolizes what the company is. And when I started, I looked through so many V's just trying to find the basis for this. And then when I kind of landed on there's a check mark, which makes sense for the business stuff. We're getting things done. And then I was looking at it, I'm like, the V kind of looks like an aardvark. So we can run with this. And so, I had that kind of idea. It's like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. And then Tara made it better. So it worked.
And let me tell you, I've had many clients present concepts to me, but they're usually not as strong as this. So Amanda, again, her artistic talent is showing there, because I don't usually get concepts that are this effective. I will put it that way. That would be this impactful, where I'm like, I look at it and go, you know what? I can work with this. This makes a lot of sense. And it looks like we have a comment here.
We do. Mike said that I agree, it's calming. What appeals to me is that it's symmetrical and organized. I've seen websites where they try to cram as much as they can into it, and it's cluttered and muddy.
I don't like clutter, just for the record.
No.
I don't like physical clutter. I don't like digital clutter. And so, I'll let Tara can speak to why clutter is bad. But that, if I saw a cluttered website, we'd know instantly that's not mine.
Yes, we would. And you're right about cluttered and muddy websites, Mike. In fact, I tell people from a UX perspective, I'm always telling people to clear out and clean up websites, because from a user experience perspective, it's not a good experience. You feel overwhelmed. And a lot of times if you go to a site and there's too many options and there's too much going on, you leave because you don't even know where to look or where to find anything. And that's never good. And I think it's that tendency of a lot of companies, clients, founders, they want to explain everything. They want to make sure that every single component or every single ingredient or every single benefit is listed and detailed, just in case people want to know every little thing. Because I think in their mind, they're thinking, well, if I don't explain everything, will I be credible? Will people have questions if I don't tell them every little thing? they might have questions. And in fact, you could create an FAQ section just for that. But what really helps is to have a very clear message and to keep it succinct and to keep it easy to follow and simple. Okay, did we have any other comments on this mood board? Mood board number 1. Now, then I think we can move to mood board number 2. So this was the other mood board that I developed for Amanda. And as you can see, it's a very different direction. And I did this to us on purpose. I did it to myself and I did it to Amanda, knowing fully what I was doing, because I wanted to see which direction she really wanted to lean into more. Like, which one felt the most true? Which one did she really want to embrace with the Vark Ops brand? And so this one, again, leans more into that playful side. I was looking at different colors and coral kept coming up. I kept going back to it, and I know that Amanda is not a fan of like oranges or reds. And so I thought, I don't know how she would feel about this. Again, this is taking a risk, but it just, something about it. It makes me think of her. That part of her that's just a little bit rebellious, that, thinks out of the box, that is willing to take risks for the right reasons. Coral is a risk. It's a bright color. It's a bit in your face. So I honestly did not know how she was going to react to this. So Amanda, tell us your reaction when you first saw this.
Well, when I first saw this, I became obsessed with coral because it's not a color. I don't like reds, oranges, pinks, but somehow this color and the way that it looks with the teal and everything else, like, it just became so, I just am so drawn to it. And that I really liked. This color combination, I love it so much because it's still me. It's in my opinion, and I think we'll kind of get into this. On the other one, we had that yellow as the accent. To me, this coral is, I love that as an accent color even more, just the way that it looks here. What I also noticed, this font, and this is what I would normally go for, the kind of bolder, but I liked the other one better. Seeing the two options, it's almost like this is what I used to go for, and the other is what I go for now. And I feel overall, while I like this, it's a little too playful for me. It's, I like the logo. I think it's fun. I just like how this is all more lighthearted. The cartoon Aardvark is fun. I mean, but all of this, it doesn't feel as true to who I am now. I think it gets pieces of it. And of course, and I'll let Tara talk about it too. The first thing she told me before she showed me these two things is you can't mix and match. They're not set up that way. It's not like you can pull one thing from one and one for the other, because everything goes together in a cohesive and intentional way. So of course, what do I want to do? I want to stick with the first one, but I want that coral. Don't take the coral away from me. That's like, I love the colors on this one, but everything else on the other one. But she told me from the beginning, that's not how it works. And I understand that. But in my head, in my perfect world, if we just take these colors and we plop them over there, then I've got everything that I want and I'm happy. But this is another version of me, but it's not, I think it's not the focused version of me. It's not, it's just, you see the two choices, I lean instinctively towards the first one. It feels truer to who I am and what I do. Whereas this one, it's more the small portion of it. This is the not as known side.
And now I'm going to ask, just when you had that initial reaction, I know asking McEwan about their feelings is not necessarily the best question, but I'm going to do it anyway. When you look at it, what is the first thing that comes to mind of how it's making you feel?
I don't know. And I'm terrible at this because I don't feel anything from it, and that's so it's hard for me to pull a word. Is there by chance another way you can ask that question that maybe, because
When you
sometimes if
see
I
it, do you feel the same sense of calm as you did with the last board?
no, I don't think
Kind
so.
of
I think
calming.
this one has more energy.
Okay.
And I think so yeah, I would get more, I mean, it's more vibrant, so there's more energy to it. I suppose that would be where I would go with it. It's in you. I mean, you said playful, and then I stole it from you, but it does feel playful with the coral cat and the cartoon aardvark. It's more. I see this more as a creative version.
Does it feel more like Aardvark Girl than Vark Ops?
Yes, yeah, that would be a good way to put it. This feels more in line with my personal brand versus my business brand.
That makes sense. Anyone in the audience have a comment? Your reaction to this? I would love to I think we'd both love to hear the reaction to it. You mentioned more energetic and that you're really drawn to the coral and the seafoam light green color. Why? Do you know why?
No more than I know why I like teal in the first place. It just there's certain things that I'm drawn to. And the same way that I know when I see pink and red in general, I'm not drawn to that. There's just something. It's about that whole. I guess it's the four colors that are underneath my picture on the left, and then in the bigger squares on the right. It's the way that all four of those go together. But there's something about the brighter teal and the coral together, those two colors that really, I like that. It's because it's like they're opposition. They are opposite, which I think they actually are on the color wheel. They're pretty much those complementary colors, which is probably why. But I just really like the balance of that teal and the coral. And then when you add the seafoam, which we know is another Amanda color in with it, it just, there's something about, because that's why I kept looking when you showed these to me in the first place. It was just the colors. It's like I almost didn't see the rest of it because I loved the color combination so much.
Would you call it exciting?
Probably, yeah.
Is it because it's different from what you've done the last decade?
Yeah,
Different than what
I
you would have
think
thought of for yourself?
I definitely would have never put coral into the mix. And I remember because you sent me a text and you said, is this a definite no? And then I looked at it, I'm like, no, it's definitely not a definite no. And then I got really excited about the opportunity to use that color because it's not something that exists in my world. There's not one thing in my house that is coral colored. And in wanting to step away a little bit out of that, sometimes I think it's important to step out of your comfort zone. So the teals and the seafoams, that world is very comfortable. When I added yellow into like my house and now into that other site, that was one of those. I don't normally go for yellow, so this is a nice contrast. It adds a little bit of energy to the calm, which is what I also want, because I don't want somebody to look at me as boring. Even though sometimes I'll call myself boring, it's I want to show like, yeah, mostly even keeled, but with that little spark in there. And so this coral, it takes that yellow idea and just kind of amplified it because it's so far out of the norm for me. And that's the part that I got excited about because I kept just looking at these colors. I had a dream about these colors that same night. I was like, oh, I like it so much.
And Amanda's dreams, let me tell you, they are wild. They really should make a movie or tell a story out of each and every one of them because they were that interesting to hear about.
I do like the way she described the colors. I think the coral really balances things out in this concept. And then we've got a comment from Mike. For me, the first one, I read traditionally from left to right. This one, the coral color keeps drawing my eye to the upper right-hand corner.
And that color draws you in.
It really does. It's a bold, it's a loud color, which is part of the interesting conundrum, which we're going to get to. But when I developed this, I was thinking of that quietly rebellious part of Amanda, that modern, I wouldn't really say mischievous, but when she says, like, don't tell me what I can't do, or you tell her she can't do something and she will go and do it, that part of her, I really wanted to capture that bold spirit that she does have, because she is very brave. She does, even though she's very, like, in some ways by the book and all about, she has to be in her line of work. She has to be accurate. She has to follow the rules to a certain extent, and organized and dependable and reliable and all those wonderful things. She also is bold, and she makes daring decisions. Like, I don't know, like moving up a few doors down from us in the Pacific Northwest, like, you know what? It's available. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to do it. Like, I wasn't planning on moving for a couple years, but you know what? This happened, and I'm going to pounce on it, or getting on a plane to Canada to meet you two. This is who Amanda is.
It just, I did move to a place that I'd never stepped foot in before. And that just, that's the kind of thing. I'm very instinct driven. So where I say that I'm not a risky person, I'm actually very risk averse. If my instinct tells me to do something, I don't question it. I just do it. And so it said, okay, well, you're going to move on a whim, and you're going to buy this house that's on the same street as your brother and his wife, and you're going to do it without ever seeing the house because it doesn't exist yet, and you're going to move to a town where you've never even visited, just based on the word of what those two told me. They said I'd like it, and so I trusted them, and I did it. It's really Tara's fault. It all started with, Jesse started it with, you should move out here one day. And then Tara just happened to start sending some real estate listings. And yeah, so here we are.
Yeah. And she's adapted better to the Pacific Northwest cold than I have. And I've been up here for years, and I lived in Colorado, and I still can't adapt to the cold. And she did it in a year. I think this place was made for her. She fits it really well.
Well, and it kind of ties in even with, like, this brand, because I feel like these are very Pacific Northwest colors, the blues, everything that I'm drawn to, which again, I think is why that pop of coral, it's, okay, so yeah, you're a Pacific Northwest girl, but you've got a little of that extra vibrancy in there that we don't always see. It's that, it's rainy, but there's this little bright spot in there too, because we all know that I love a good storm, so.
Oh yes, we all do. And much like with the first board, even though when you see it, the first thing you think is colorful, playful, the coral draws you in, it's loud, it says a lot. I still wanted to ground it in clarity and competence, and make it clean and organized, just with some spark to it. So again, I wanted to I went really minimal on the design. So even though there's different things in here to draw your eye, everything by itself is still minimalist, crisp, clean, linear in a way. To really capture, again, I'm credible, you can trust me, I'm approachable. That picture, to me, screams approachability, friendliness, warmth. So we looked at both of these mood boards, and we ran into a conundrum, because she, as you can hear, really loved the coral and Seafoam together, but really loved that first board. She felt it the logo, the look of it, the feel captured how she wants to present herself and resonated with her. And that's really important. I want my clients to be able to embrace their brand, because at the end of the day, I'm a guide. So this next part, Amanda hasn't seen the revised board. She hasn't seen it yet. So we're going to get her initial reaction. And I actually did two versions. One where I played up the coral more and I made it louder, and one where I made it softer. And I have my thoughts on it. But ultimately, I'm here to guide her. I'm here to tell her, here are what I think are the pros and the cons of this direction and what the effects might be. But ultimately, it's going to be her decision, what she feels most comfortable with, because she does have to embrace it. This is her brand. She has to feel comfortable with it. She has to be happy with it. And I know Amanda's very capable. So she can take the information I give her and make a decision.
But also remember how
right
I said that my rebellion comes in when somebody tells me I can't do something. And so you told me I can't mix and match. So of course, what did I want to do? It's not intentional. It just happens.
Yeah. And the reason I said that is because they are both really clear-cut directions with strong messages. And what we really want to communicate with her brand is we want to communicate a strong message one way or the other. And we can still have a little of the other in it, just not in a way where it becomes really muddled and confusing to people. And we're trying to avoid that. So that's why I said no mixing and matching, because they really were developed to be strong. Each one is strong message and direction on their own. It was more, which direction is she going to go? Is she going to go a little more elegant and conservative, or is she going to go a little bit more rebellious and bold? So ultimately, she decided she wanted to go the more elegant, polished, that felt most true to her. But can we put some of the coral in? Can we make it work? Look, I am open-minded. I am willing to try things because I realize that I don't necessarily know everything. Even though I've been developing brands for many years, it feels like forever, I've still surprised myself. Sometimes client suggestions surprise me. I think, oh God, that's not going to work. And then I try it and I go, oh, actually I can make this work, or this is even better. So to keep growing as an artist myself, I have to get a little bit of Amanda in me and try new things and be open and take risks. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to test this out. So Jessie, if you want to reveal the third, or the revised version to Amanda. Okay, so let's get your initial reaction before I say anything.
My initial reaction, I'm sorry, I'm taking in all the things. Like I'm still drawn to the brightness of the coral. I think it adds a nice change. Like, I mean, I liked the yellow too, but we know that it was kind of like, ooh. And it's one of those things that I also just want to say, because we know I am not the branding expert. So there's a lot that Tara knows that I don't know. I don't know how a logo conveys movement or what a font says. All of this stuff is so foreign to me. So in my logic brain, I will hear something like, oh, you can't, like, if the colors work over there, why wouldn't they work over here? That just makes no sense why they wouldn't. So, but this is also why you trust the expert, because she knows a lot more about what all of these things together say than I do. But and I don't know if there's any way to do this, Jessie. Are you able to show this one and the yellow one together by any chance? Because sometimes if I see my initial thought is like, oh, okay, great. It's a perfect blend of the two things. It's okay. So and this is where I need to take time with things, because I mean, I can see that obviously they do have different feels to them completely. What the differences are as far as feel, I don't know how to say that.
Which one do you gravitate to more now, just at first glance?
I'm trying to look at the two to make a decision. It's the coral feels more energetic, the yellow feels more calm. And so I feel like depending on my mood, I might be drawn to one over the other. But yeah, I mean, it's funny how colors can make something feel completely different. Mm-hmm. In my initial reaction, I'm not instantly drawn to one over the other. This is one of those things where I'd kind of need some input, or I'd need to spend some time looking at the two together to really know. Like, it's the I don't know if this had been an option either. Of course, I don't want to make more things, but it's almost like the change in the two colors was more drastic than if we had just replaced the yellow with the coral and left the not this, whatever the other lighter teal color is. So I mean, I still, obviously I really like the color combo, but I don't,
Do you think it works as well here as it did with the more playful concept? Does it reach out and grab you as much as it did with the more playful concept?
It does, in the sense that I'm still just instantly drawn to that color. It's the first thing that I see. Whether that's what we want, I don't know. Yeah, this is where I need some
What are your
input,
thoughts, Jesse?
There's something about the coral that, to me, it seems like it overtakes the entire design. Whereas in the top one, the yellow is more of an accent. It's a complementary thing. And the bottom one, it seems like the coral just takes over. It commands the attention. And for me, I'm not sure that I like that. It's too in my face. Whereas for that type of kind of accent, I just want it to be there for a pop of color, but not be fighting the main color for top dog.
And now I will offer my perspective. I like to get completely unbiased reactions and perspectives before I offer my thoughts on it. But I do agree with what Jesse is saying. When I put it together, especially that the coral button with the logo on the side, my first reaction to this is these colors really are starting to overpower the brand voice and the direction. It weakens the clarity of the original direction. It feels like they're competing. It feels like the coral is competing with everything else, and there's almost like this stylistic clash. It's like I put it together and I looked at it and I thought, well, this could work. Like, it doesn't immediately, you don't look at it and go, oh, those colors look terrible together, or they completely clash. It's more, there's something that to me doesn't quite flow. And I'm a little bit more confused of who Amanda is. Like, I feel like it feels a little bit everywhere to me. And I think it's because that coral, as we've discussed, is so loud. It calls so much attention to it that I thought, well, and especially like with your logo, I feel like it pulls from your logo too, like that movement. Whereas if you have like the button with just the outline and your logo, you notice your logo a lot more, which is important because it's still vibrant. It has that movement. The yellow just really blends in with everything, and it gives you, again, like you says, that sense of calm, but it feels like it flows. It feels like it makes sense together. It communicates has very clear communication of, I am calming. I am the chaos tamer. I am going to come in and make your day better.
Well,
and bring a little bit of yellow sun with me.
It's like the yellow is the me version. It's the green tea drinker where there's just there's a calmness, whereas the coral, that's your coffee drinker, and we know that that's not me. That's the one that comes in with all the energy, and it's the green tea, it has just a little bit. It's a little more subtle energy.
A little more subtle energy. And so I thought, you know what, Amanda really likes this coral. Like, I want to find a way to make this work for her if I can. So let me try and make the coral a little bit more subtle and see if that helps with the issues I'm having with it, where I feel like the message just isn't super clear.
One thing I wanted to touch on is, I think the way I see the coral is it makes things feel less cohesive to me. The yellow just feels like it was meant to be part of that entire package. The coral just feels kind of pushed in there.
It feels like somebody said, I really like this color. Can you put it even in there, even though you told me I can't?
It does kind of feel like that.
You're not wrong.
It just feels a little out of place. I can't exactly put my finger on why. It just feels out of place in this concept.
Yeah, that was my initial. It's like, oh, this feels a little out of place, and I'm trying to put my finger on what it is and what it communicates, and that's what I came up with. It just competes too much. So let's pull up the more subtle version of the coral.
It did it again. It keeps losing it. Give me a second.
the files get lost.
It says that's the light one.
Yeah, it's there. That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. So initial reaction to this one.
Yeah, so I see what you did. So instead of the yellow, we've got Seafoam, and instead of the bright coral, we've got that. All right, I'm trying to see. I almost feel like I see the couple things to know about me. One, I don't really do well on the spot. I'm a processor. I need to see things a lot. And also I need to compare things. So when I see one thing in front of me, it's hard to say, but if I see the two together, then I have a better ability to compare the two. See, okay, so when I'm looking at those two, it's weird. It's like because we know that the Seafoam is more of my color, and obviously then we still get some coral in there. But I feel like because the yellow is brighter, but it's not as bright as that coral was. So it's like it still offers that nice balance, that the little bit of energy without being too much. It's definitely better than the other one, the bright coral. As much as I want the bright coral, I agree that it just doesn't fit the flow as well. And now I don't know how I feel about either one of these. Like I guess how would it be used? Obviously, like I see here that, there's throw pillows, but in real practical use on, say, like a website or something, or content, how would that be used? Is it just kind of there occasionally? Just
Oh, we have a comment here.
I know. Yes, sorry. My silence was reading the comment.
I was trying not to open a can of worms, but I was thinking, I like the couch picture and the bottom picture, but with the yellow square to the top, to the right of the image. Let me put this up here. Okay, so I was
Couch
trying...
in the bottom picture. Okay.
Like the couch in the bottom picture, but with the yellow square to the right.
So I think what I like about that top version is, we've got the yellow accent is there twice. Like there's a lighter yellow and there's a brighter yellow. Whereas in the other one, now we've got the coral, but we also have the Seafoam, and it doesn't have quite the same contrast, I think, because now the coral is so subtle that it's just it's weird. It's not that because I like all of it. I just don't know what goes the best together.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Mike said to the right of the image, but I knew I didn't even realize that he used the wrong direction. I knew what he meant.
Yeah, I think he's saying basically take the bottom one, make the Seafoam fixer square yellow. And see how that looks, which that could be an interesting direction.
Yeah, or like if Oh, go ahead.
For me, there's just something about that yellow. It really pops without overpowering. When we take that out and put the coral in, the coral just loses something. It becomes less impressive in this context, whereas the yellow still pops out. The bottom one, it loses something by not having that yellow in there. Again, I think best way to put it feels a little less cohesive. It feels a little more homogeneous because everything is pretty much blues and greens, and the coral is a little too subdued to really help that out. On the top one, you've got that yellow, which really breaks up the greens that we're using.
Yeah, because I think on the bottom one, if the fixer square was also coral, it would be kind of more comparable because then you've got the similar where it's like right now that yellow fixer plus the other kind of darker yellow next to it on the throw pillows gives it a lot of contrast. And I think because the seafoam and this coral are kind of muted, we lose that energy from like the brighter. The not the main teal, but the next to the aardvark bluish is still bright, a lot brighter than the seafoam. So you still get a lot of brightness without the in your face that the coral was in the other version.
So what I'm hearing is that that touch of energy and that brightness is important to you.
I think, yeah, it is.
Jesse, can you pull up the bold coral one again, just so everybody can see it? And actually, sorry, if you want to compare it to the yellow version. Yep.
Making
Sorry,
Jesse
my
work
mouse
with the
got
files.
stuck.
Oh,
Okay,
no,
so we
your
want...
mouse got stuck.
Which ones do we want?
We want
Light
yellow and bright and heavy coral. Yeah.
What's the name of the yellow one?
Should just be like elegant.
Is that quirky or elegant?
No, elegant.
Okay, so elegant and heavy.
Heavy coral, yes. There we go. Okay. So that way we have the squares there to sort of compare.
Yeah.
So we
So
did
it's how-
that.
How like on the top the fixer yellow is it's a lighter yellow, where it's not. Obviously the heavy coral is too heavy. But it's like that's I think kind of the difference there is on yellow we've got just two different types of it. One's still bright and then one's not as. I'm not articulating that well. But like if I look at these two together, I'm in agreement that the yellow makes more sense. Then, because the other version with the lighter coral, I think it was they're not apples to apples because we're not having just the same, like if the light coral was where the yellow is in both spots, it might feel different, but I think, just moving it to such a subtle, so it's only kind of in that one place on the couch there in that other version, it feels kind of out of place and like it doesn't belong there.
Okay.
I like that Jesse's trying to
It's like, yeah, I'm
trying to get them all in there.
Around. Yeah, and we will, of course, I didn't promise anyone we would solve it during this call, so you don't have to have a decision during this call. We can send you all three and give you time to process and think it through. But as your brand builder, that would be my commentary. Is my concern is using too much coral will muddy your message a bit. It will clash and not be as strong and communicate as strongly. And oh, nice, Jesse. He placed that there for us. Thank you.
Because I think that would be my only other question would be if we did what Jesse just did, but was the lighter coral, not this in your face. So if it was changing nothing else of this except for the yellow to the lighter coral, would that make a difference, or is it still just that the coral is out of place?
By lighter coral, do you mean what's on the pillows on the couch?
Yeah, like the third option that you had given.
I'm wondering though if that would be, again, that wouldn't be as energetic as the yellow, because if we use the lighter coral, it's going to be a little bit more faded, and not have as much pop as that coral, or the yellow. And I'm just, again, we can visualize, like I'm just imagining it in my head, and just based on your comments, I'm wondering if you would be as drawn to it.
Yeah. At that, I don't know. Because I think it's because we changed 2 colors in it instead of just the one, that maybe it's like it's too much, but it's there. I'm still just trying to find balance. That's me at the stretching. It's like, is there any way that it still works? But even if it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's, again, that's why we go through this, and you visualize different things before, because sometimes you have to see something that doesn't work to figure out what does work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like I said, I love the coral too. I think the combination of the seafoam and the coral is like banging. Like I like to steal it from my own brand. Like I just think it's that strong and exciting of a color combination. It's refreshing. I think that's how I describe it. It's like, oh, this feels refreshing. Like this feels fun. But at the same time, it has to be you, and it has to feel like you. And sometimes we're drawn to colors that might not work for our brand. Like I love your color scheme. I love teal and a little bit of sunny yellow, but would it work for my brand remix? No, like it doesn't, it doesn't go with me. And if you look at my personality and who I am, I'm goofy and not always, sometimes articulate, sometimes not. But I'm very creative, but I'm also very analytical. And so I often walk that center line between creatives and analysts, and I do the communicating on both sides. That's why people like me as a strategist. Because like you, it's that contradiction. So that's why I have the, trustworthy solid purple. And then I have the lime green because that's my goofy side. Like me and lime green, we just go together, So there's so many other colors I would like to try out, and I really enjoy, and like, oh, I wish I could have that, but it wouldn't really fit who I am as a brand and what I offer to people. So it's thinking about all of those things and what makes the most sense. Any other thoughts that have percolated?
I should have grabbed some Jeopardy music to play just to play in these moments.
So I think what all of us do, it's like we like to mix and match. That's it's like what Mike's doing, and he's like, well, I like this part of this one and this part of this one, and then once you do that, it changes. It's it's like you might see somebody and they think, oh, like I really like her purple short hair, and it's great. But then you take that purple short hair and then you put it on somebody else's head, and you're like, ooh, no, that's bad. So not everything.
It becomes less cohesive because that coral and that lighter green were built for the other direction. That concept built around that logo to work with the fonts, to work with everything, and to just communicate like a strong message about, hey, you know what? I'm Vark Ops. I'm super organized. I'm not chaotic, but you know what? I'm a little bit bold and I'm offbeat, and I'm not going to do things like everybody else. Whereas this still communicates that you can depend on me. I'm reliable. I'm trustworthy. I have my shit together. I'm smart. But you know what? I have a softer side. I'm approachable. I'm sunny. I'm calming. And again, they're both you. Any other comments from those watching?
What I'll say is that, to me, the initial 2 concepts feel a lot more cohesive. They feel like they are complete. These others, they just feel a little more a la carte. Like things are being mixed and matched, and it waters down the brand a little bit. I can't really put my finger on why, but there's just little things about it that don't feel as strong to me as the first 2 concepts.
Well, that's why there's that subtlety. And again, the things that, because Tara's an expert in this field and she's she knows what she's doing. There's a thing that I'm sure you've dealt with plenty of clients who are like this. They're like, well, but this is what I like. And liking something doesn't make it good for branding. You can say, and that's, I think, what happens a lot of times is people don't listen to the expert that they've hired and they just say, no, this is what I want to do. And then it doesn't flow. It's not cohesive because, again, if I'm just looking at, I really like that second concept, the way that the colors are, I want you to take that and plop them onto this other thing, because I don't know what movement and, like I said, the movement in logo or fonts and, just certain things. I don't know what that all says together. And it's, like there are some, you might like two different flavors and then you put them together. It doesn't mean that they're going to taste good together. So it's not as simple as, what you like. When you're doing a brand, it can't be just, well, I like these colors, so I want to use them. They have to make sense. And that's why you have branding experts and you hire people who know more than you so they can stop you from making the poor decisions that you would make on your own. You need some supervision.
But what it does seem like is you seem sure than ever that the more elegant direction is for you. That the original concept we came up with is at least the right direction that you want to go in. We might look at the colors a little bit harder, but it feels like this concept overall versus the more playful one.
Yeah. That I don't feel any hesitation on that at all. Mike has some more input. I appreciate you, Mike. At least we have one person that comments and lets us know there's somebody's there.
It has to be challenging to come up with a brand for someone who's simplistic and complicated at the same time. All versions are beautiful.
That's the biggest issue. It's simple and complicated. That's me.
Well, if
and you notice I've got a Seafoam shirt on right now because this is my color. I blend in with your branding feedback or your.
Well, and then you've got the teal couch back there behind you.
You can tell where I pulled it from,
Yeah. I like what I like.
Yeah, and it just so happens to suit you and your brand really well. So if I said, okay, Amanda, we're going to go in that first direction, that original direction with the yellow, that's the direction we're moving in. How would you feel about that? Would you have some hesitations? Would you be like, or would you be like, yeah, I'm okay with that? How's that? Yeah, how does that sit right now?
I'd say I'd probably be 98% okay with it. I would, because the way I just like to, it's my curiosity. Before I settle on something 100%, I like to know that I've weighed all of the options. And so I might just have one other question, but I'm not like, if you were to say we're out of time, you have to pick this is what you're going with. It's not going to be eating me alive inside. We're like, oh, now I'm stuck with this thing. I think we're there, or we're at least very close, and probably we are there. I just need to, just for my own peace of mind, to know that have I asked all the right questions? Have I thought of everything? But yeah, I feel that this feels very much like me.
Yeah, it sounds like we are very close. It's just a matter of, okay, I just want to make sure see if there's any other possibilities I can get that coral in there. Just make sure that this is the one. And so we'll send you all three of them so you can have some time to yourself to process and think things over and let me know what your questions are from there. Does that sound good?
I do that. Yeah. And it won't be a lot. I think there's that one other scenario of, if we just took basically from the yellows and replaced just the yellows with the not in your face coral, but like a similar, I don't know what that word is, tone, but whatever the word is, similar coral. So it's just apples to apples, just one's yellow and then one's coral. I think if I saw both of those, it would be enough to say, okay, we're good.
So the lighter coral you mentioned.
Yeah, I think so. Just like in similar, like you've got, this lighter yellow, and it looks like the throw pillows in the art are a little bit darker, but just kind of the same thing, just with the coral.
Just with the coral.
They're like a
Got it.
lighter, and then the slightly, yeah. I don't know how to put that into words. The same, because what is it? It's saturation, the same something like
Yeah,
the main
shade.
coral was so bright, like so, yeah. Compared to this yellow, it's a little more subdued. Anyhow,
Yeah.
yeah, just nitpicking at this point, which I'm sure you love.
Hey, we're 98% of the way there. That's progress in my book. That's progress. We're further ahead than we were, and we already had a good start. So,
Yeah.
all right. Any other final thoughts or comments?
Just, I think for me, it's been interesting to see how much work goes into a brand, because so many people think it's just a logo, it's just a pretty color or a font, but there's a lot more psychology to it. There's a lot more to put everything together into something that's cohesive. And that's what makes something like this stand out compared to what you might get from Fiverr or Upwork, where someone goes through, puts together, they grab or they make a logo, they pick a font, pick some colors that go together. But it just feels like a mishmash of things that they all work together, but it never feels cohesive, not like a professional brand does.
I think one thing just to mention, and back in the beginning we were talking about just my philosophy and my clients and how it's more than just a paycheck, and I genuinely care. That is exactly why I like working with Tara, because she doesn't treat this as, oh, you're just a paycheck, I'm just going to give you what you want, I'm just going to throw some stuff in here and here you go. It's not that at all. She very much, this is the same level of care that you would put into your brand when you're building it, because you feel that what you do for other clients, that's a representation of you also by extension. And it's why it's so important. It's not to knock anybody that offers services on Fiverr or any of that, but you're going to get, I mean, like, I've saw plenty of people that were like, oh, you could just use one of those AI logo generators where you just type in some words and then you instantly get a bunch of stuff. No. Yeah. There are when a logo and all of this stuff, the fonts, the colors, everything that's representative of your brand, that's going to go towards everything that you do. That's the first thing that people see when they want to work with you. It does mean way more than just throwing some stuff together. So it's again, like, yeah, you can get a free AI logo generator, or you can pay somebody a tiny amount on Fiverr to do something where they're just churning things out to get them done. Or you can work with somebody like Tara that's going to put the time and the effort and the thought, like all of these things that we're talking about, is everybody going to ask the same questions and try to understand, like, how does all of this stuff really speak to you as the human brand, as she said? And it's so important to me to work with people who have that same level of care in the work that they do. So thank you, Tara.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you both recognizing that, yeah, building a brand isn't easy. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And no AI cannot take over what we do or give you the same level of service. It's just not there. If you really want to build something unique, you still need to deal with a human. All right.
And
so go ahead.
And because we're bad at it, if you're interested in working with us, you can contact us at bbremix.com. We've gotten a shorter URL because brandandbusinessremix.com is a lot to type in, so we shortened that to bbremix.com.
We did. And next week, Amanda will be taking the mic and talking about some ops topics and how she tames chaos.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the value of time and actually continuing some of this conversation about why, or what the hidden costs of doing it all yourself are.
All right. Well, have a good week, everyone.
And if you see this on the replay and you want to weigh in, do it quickly because I'm motivated to make decisions, but I would love to hear what people think.
Seriously, if you see this, please, yes, leave comments. We want to hear them, because especially if you are somebody Amanda could potentially serve, we want to hear directly from you, like who she works with.
Yeah, leave comments, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. It does help us. We're new. We're trying to get started. If you know anybody who's looking for branding work, anybody who's looking for business ops work, or AI and automations work, you can reach out to us. That's what we do. That's why we're here. Tara's thrown out the idea of doing some AMAs coming up. We've got a lot of things. We want to be able to help some of you who do participate, who do watch, and we'll set up a page where people can ask some questions if they can't attend the live recordings. So that will be coming up soon too.
All right. Well, have a good night, everyone.
Bye. Sorry.